Do you dread seeing an email from Sign Up Genius? Are there certain people you try and avoid at church because you know that if you talk to them, it means you're going to spend yet another weekend cleaning out the church's supply closet or organizing the next month's potluck? Or maybe you never have cash because you're always giving it to someone for this birthday or that going away party. Saying no to people is a very important part of managing your own time effectively, and it's one that took me years to master. So today we're going to talk about saying no and how important learning how to do it is to your overall well-being, because it really is. Hi, I'm Wendy Valencia. Here at the Valencia household, I run a tight ship. It's true. It's actually so tight that my brother calls me the warden. He may or may not be joking. One of the things that I do very, very well is organization. I organize my home, I organize my time, I organize my whole life, and I try and organize the lives of my family. And they're getting better at it. Over the last 3 years, I have finally succeeded in organizing my money, if you can believe it. And when I say finally succeeded, it isn't because I spent years struggling with it. It's just because I really didn't know that it was a thing. But the one thing I always struggled with was saying no. And I've been told for decades that I'm intimidating. So whenever anyone asked me to do something, I would do it with a smile because maybe they'd think I was more approachable. And that was fine because I was single and I had a lot of free time outside of my job. Although let's go ahead and admit right now that I was kind of a workaholic who worked like 80 hours a week. But even with all of those hours in the office, I still had free time to do stuff that the people asked me to do. And Lord help me if you needed money for something. Have I mentioned the $300,000 in debt that I used to have for giving things that I didn't have money for to people? It's a thing in the Valencia household. Well, I should say it used to be a thing. It's not a thing anymore. I just really wanted people to like me, but I gradually realized that saying yes to everything won't make people like you more. It'll actually make people take advantage of you. And people are going to like you whether or not you bake cupcakes for the after school party. So at this point, people will inevitably say, but I feel so guilty when I say no. Trust me, I get it. It's hard. I really, really do understand. But once you start thinking about the why behind saying no, it becomes way easier. So in my world, there are two major reasons you would say no to something: to save you time or to save you money. And for me, both of these things are equally important. My time is super valuable. I have a regular career and then this business on the side. And then if I want to spend any time whatsoever with my daughter Melina, saying yes to anything will limit that. So as a result, I'm constantly saying, is this more important than going on a bike ride this afternoon, or going to the pool, Melina, or playing a board game? Almost 10 times out of 10, the answer is no, it's not more important. By looking at what you're giving up to do the activity, the decision becomes a lot easier. On the flip side, when we talk about saying no as a money-saving technique, collectively people start to clinch. And no, I don't mean saying no so you can sit at home amongst your hoarded piles of cash and counting your $1 bills. I will still always give because giving is so incredibly important. But I get that people get a little freaked out when they have to start saying no to stuff just for the purpose of saving money. But what I'm talking about is thinking about yourself and your family first before giving away or spending your money. And as y'all know, we give anywhere from $500 to $2,000 a month, every single month. But we've cut way back from where we used to be. And now we plan our giving, and we plan for very generous giving, but we try really hard not to deviate from our plan. So once you know why to say no, possibly the most difficult part of saying no is figuring out how to say no without sounding like a total B word. I know what that B word is. but I'm not going to say it on YouTube. And really, there's one simple solution to that. Be kind, but be firm. A simple, I would love to, but I can't, is often all you need. Communicating your no clearly and unambiguously is the most important thing. You don't have to justify your reason for saying no. But if it makes you feel a little less blunt, it's okay to briefly explain why you're saying no. And yes, there's a difference between justifying and explaining. Explaining sounds like, no, I'd love to, but I'm sorry, I can't. I have a meeting at work that I can't miss that day. Whereas justifying sounds like, no, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm already volunteering for Girl Scouts, the PTA, and soccer, and I just swore to myself that I wouldn't volunteer for something else. Be specific and make it clear that your answer is no. And under no circumstances should you whine about how busy you are. This is like a personal pet peeve of mine. Everyone is busy. Whining about how you are so much busier than everyone else will just piss people off, so don't do it. And just so you know, my go-to response is to say, hold on, let me check my calendar, and then open up my calendar on my phone and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I already have something scheduled for that time. And that's not a lie at all. It may only be that I have a bike ride with Melina scheduled during that time, but it's a scheduled thing on my calendar. So let's go through a few scenarios to practice. What about when someone asks you to volunteer at the PTA bake sale? Well, my response is, I am so sorry, but we already have plans during that time, and I'm hoping it will work out in our schedule so I will have time to swing by to support the PTA by buying some goodies. I get this one a lot from my daughter. Mom, can you chaperone my field trip like all the other moms do? My response to her is, sweetie, remember how we talked at the beginning of the school year about how mommy could only volunteer for one field trip every year? Do you remember the field trip that I already went on? Well, that was my one field trip for the year, and I'm sorry, but I just can't volunteer for another one until next year because it is super important that mommy doesn't miss a whole lot of work. This is a frequent conversation in my house, and this explanation works very, very well with Melina. What about when somebody at church asks you to chair a canned goods drive? So when the time commitment might be large, but there's no possibility for a schedule conflict, the response may warrant no explanation. A simple, I'm sorry, I'd love to, but I can't, will probably be enough. But what about this one? I know you saw that episode of Friends where Ross is asked to contribute $100 for the handyman's retirement gift and everyone hates him because he says no. The truth is, a response of, I'm sorry, I'm on a tight budget to meet some financial goals. So if I don't plan ahead of time for something, I absolutely don't spend the money, is completely sufficient. I use this one a lot. Everybody who knows me knows that we are trying to meet many financial goals right now, and we're just not going to spend outside those goals within reason. Every once in a while we do. What about when your girlfriends want to go to a super expensive concert and you just don't want to spend that money? That's when the tried and true, oh, I'm sorry, I already have something scheduled that night comes in. Now, I'm not saying you must say no to everything. On the contrary, it's okay to say yes to some things, but I do suggest knowing ahead of time what you're going to say yes to and planning for it. For example, in the scenario I mentioned before where I tell Melina at the beginning of the school year that I'll volunteer for one and only one field trip. That is the perfect example of planning for the times you're going to do something to volunteer. So how do I know what to say yes to? Honestly, if when I'm asked in my gut, my reaction is to say hell yes, then I absolutely say yes. If my answer is anything other than hell yes, my answer is no, every single time. So I'll see you in the next one. See ya. We're out.